Ramsey. The new infrastructure is needed as the country moves to decarbonise and achieve the target of net zero emissions by 2050. Meanwhile, a second consultation will start tomorrow on a 100-mile of new pylons running from Norwich via Bramford on the outskirts of Ipswich to Tilbury in Essex. Joining me to discuss the panel's suggestion is Fiona Gilmore from Suffolk Energy Action Solutions, a campaign group which wants to see cables run under the sea instead of coming on shore. Fiona, good morning to you.
Good morning, Luke.
Thank you for joining us on the programme this morning. We need green energy and we need to stop climate change. Why are you opposed to renewable energy infrastructure coming on shore then?
We are passionately in favour, as you know, of green energy and wind energy offshore. And there is a better alternative solution, which Elia, which is the Belgium equivalent of National Grid, has been launched and implementing since September 2019, which is subsea cables, offshore platforms going to brownfield sites closer to where the demand is required. And we have been promoting such an offshore grid now since 2019 when we first spoke to Elia. And our government here, the government, and I'm afraid National Grid and Ofgem, they are way behind, very slow to adopt.
Why do you feel they're way behind? Why do you think they're very slow?
I think they're very slow because National Grid is a private company and it doesn't behave like a strategic, neutral, independent advisor looking at the best midterm solution for a country, which is what Elia does. And until we have the National Grid electricity system operator become independent and neutral, we will not get the best recommendations. And therefore, any kind of consultation that is undertaken today, we are sceptical about its outcomes because we think that the terms of reference will be biased in favour of the status quo. So
but you heard, but Fiona, sorry to interrupt you. You heard in
advisor to do this consultation, not the current National Grid ESO.
But Fiona, you heard the figures in the clip. It's going to cost 5 times more to put the cables under the sea. Consumers are going to have to pay for that. That's not fair though, is it?
Those figures are totally inaccurate. Please do not take those figures seriously.
Why should I not take them seriously?
Because if you look at the cost of building a house, you don't just look at the cost of the double glazing for the windows. You look at the totality. What those figures are is looking at just the cost of the subsea cables and the offshore platform. What they're not looking at, Luke, is at the cost of building substations on land here in Suffolk or anywhere else. You would not need to build those substations if you merge the offshore wind energy at sea. There are many costs that are obviated, that are made redundant if you merge wind energy at sea. That is what Belgium's Elia has shown us. What these figures are artificial costings. The real costings you should be looking at are that there is an overall saving for Britain of over 6 billion. That was presented by National Grid a few years ago in its documentation on an offshore grid. And what's more, and this is key, a saving in East Anglia of £2.82 billion. £2.82 billion if you merge the energy at sea. And that is because you're looking at all the costs involved, and there will be specific costs for onshore landing that will be negated. You will not need those substations. That's why Scottish Power doesn't like these plans. That's why other developers don't like the plans, because the cheap and easy radial connection approach, which Jerome Mayhew and also Adrian Ramsey know about. They were, by the way, the best informed in that interview. They know that those costs are negated if you go out to sea. And the technology is there, it's available, it can be done tomorrow, and we can have subsea cables by 2027 or 2028 at the latest. And
so where do you think we should? So where do you think we should go now? The consultation begins tomorrow. That's regarding the pylons, etc. But where do you think we should go now? Because you've presented all these facts this morning. Surely, you should take those to government, to National Grid, and sit down and have a conversation and try and sort this out once and for all.
Absolutely. And we are asking to have a meeting. We have had one early meeting with Minister Andrew Bowie. We are now looking to have a meeting with both Graham Stewart and Andrew Bowie, because Graham Stewart is, I'm afraid, spreading propaganda at the moment that the subsea cables are too expensive. He is part of the problem.
Well, they'd disagree with that, wouldn't they? They would disagree with that.
Andrew Bowie is more open-minded. He seems to be listening. And what we need is to put them both round a table with National Grid, ESO, and also NGET, who are the people responsible for the grid. And what we need to do is, the communities have spent a lot of time, a lot of their own money conducting research. We've hired engineers to give us these facts and figures. And we believe that the British government could make a real gain if it switched to the offshore grid tomorrow, because ultimately this is the only way forward. And East Anglia was only excluded from this proper review simply because one or two projects were already in flight. But in fact, the reality is that the timetable for these projects will not be delayed if you go for this new solution, because the judicial reviews and all kinds of other issues on land are holding up the development. And we want this wind energy as soon as possible. And it's good news for Lowestoft as they develop a centre of excellence for wind energy and renewable energy. And it's good news for the communities where tourism, nature-based tourism, is their key economic revenue stream. So please, let's get this meeting with the government, Ofgem and National Grid. And frankly, this consultation tomorrow, please, it's broken, it's a sham, it is not the consultation we want, because it is not run by independent, neutral advisors.
Okay, Fiona. Fiona, thank you very much indeed for joining us on the programme this morning. Fiona Gilmore there from the campaign group Suffolk Energy Action Solutions. And after 9, we'll have more on the consultation from National Grid on the proposals for the new pylons that will be running through